Tommy. That's enough music because we're live for another episode of What Car or Truck Should I Buy? And today, Tommy, we're talking about sleeper sedans. I like sleeper sedans. Do you like sleeper sedans?
Michael, what is a sleeper sedan?
We're going to classify a sleeper sedan as something that has a lot of horsepower, maybe a lot more horsepower than its standard version, but maybe some other little performance pieces, little bits here and there. But on the outside, it looks fairly unassuming. The lay person might not know that has 707 horsepower.
Or to put it in under 8 sentences, a car that looks slow but goes fast.
Right, yeah, that was much more concise.
So we got an email from Aaron who said, I'm a middle-aged man with a flair for the practical and yet still feel that midlife urge to do something foolishly and almost pointlessly fun. I appreciate your insight. I'm looking at high-powered sleeper sedans, including the Chevy SS, the Chrysler 300, and the Ford Taurus. So we put together a list.
Yeah, so we put together our list of the top 10 best sleeper sedans you can buy, and we wanted to be fairly recent about this, so we didn't really pick anything that's older than 3 or 4 years old is about the oldest you get on this list. And these are cars that you can go out and buy today. They have a lot of power, they're very fast, and they happen to look rather unassuming. We made some criteria, like I mentioned, so you can still buy these new or very nearly new. Some of them you might have to get them like a year or two old. They have to be under $75,000 because we wanted them to be relatively inexpensive, relatively affordable, and they had to be over 300 horsepower, reasonably understated in styling, but also good looking.
Yes, that's true. So we've put together a top 10 list, and the number 10 car on our sleeper sedan list is the Buick Regal GS. So it has a starting MSRP of just under $40,000, about 39 grand, and it has a big old naturally aspirated V6. Now this is a really cool kind of unassuming looking Buick that actually will go like stink in a straight line.
Yeah, it has 310 horsepower out of that 3.6 liter naturally aspirated V6. And I think a lot of people see the badge Buick and they automatically assume like a beige interior, silver paint, and not a whole lot going on under the hood. But Buick did something kind of cool with the Regal GS, and they crammed a giant V6 in there, gave it a bunch of horsepower, and it's actually a pretty fun car to drive.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, some of the cool features you get with the GS is, standard all-wheel drive. You get Brembo brakes, really cool, like bolstered high back bucket seats.
Yep.
So it's a car that I think a lot of you guys out there really forget about. A lot of you guys, overlook. But if you're actually looking for the true definition of a sleeper sedan or a car that looks relatively mundane but goes like hell in a straight line, at least, the Buick GS is a really potent performer.
Not to mention, it's the second least expensive option on our list, Tommy. This is almost the cheapest car that we mentioned today. But the cheapest one is actually number 9, which is the Chrysler 300S. It starts for $36,395, and under that hood is a big old 5.7 liter naturally aspirated Hemi V8 that makes 363 horsepower.
Now, Michael, I actually have a bone to pick with you on this
Really?
one. I do.
Oh, boy.
Yes, because 6 years ago, if we were doing this list a little while back, we would have had a much more interesting vehicle for this segment, because Chrysler used to make the 300 SRT,
right?
The SRT8,
sure,
and then they killed it.
Yeah, they killed it.
So is just a regular RT 5.7 Hemi still enough to be considered
It's got 363 horsepower, Tommy.
Yeah, but it's not the 426 horsepower monster that it used to be.
No, that's true, but I think the Chrysler 300 looks a bit more unassuming. It kind of fits the sleeper profile a little bit better
than the SRT
did.
It used to be actually for a while there that you could get a Chrysler 300 SRT line.
Ooh.
So you could get a 300.
It looked the part, but it didn't.
Yeah, it had like the big 20-inch wheels, but it had the small engine. However, even in the V8 form, the Chrysler 300S with the 5.7 is a very potent performer.
Yeah.
This is a car you don't want to take around a twisty road.
No, it's heavy.
Yeah,
it's based on an old E-Class Mercedes chassis.
Well, loosely, but it's not it's more of a Saturday night cruiser than a all-out performance king. But what is cool is this engine has been offered for a really long time.
Yeah.
So by now it's going to be pretty darn reliable, good old-fashioned V8. Not a lot going on there.
And if you wanted to buy some more modifications, parts to make it go even faster, you're going to have an easy time. There's lots of parts out for that particular motor. Let's keep moving. Number 8 on our list, Tommy, is the Ford Taurus SHO or SHO is their special high output. That's what it stands for. This is not currently. Is that right? What is it?
It's super high.
Super high output.
Right?
Okay, something high output. It's the fast one, is what SHO means. Starting price when this was actually available was $42,975. This is one of those vehicles that you can't actually buy a SHO anymore. But when you could, it came with a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged EcoBoost V6 that made 365 horsepower. Now, if this is a little too expensive for you, there is another option from Ford that also features a twin turbocharged V6 that makes over 300 horsepower, and that's the Ford Fusion Sport, which has the 2.7 EcoBoost, and it makes 325 horsepower. But that one makes 380 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot of torque, and it's about $3,000 less expensive. So you have two options from Ford.
Okay, if I'm being honest, I never really liked the Taurus all that much, at least this current generation.
Yeah, it's kind of heavy.
Well, a lot of you guys, for some reason, are hating on my vehicle here, the Chrysler 300.
Yeah,
and
you guys don't like that one.
I mean, come on, guys. Like, yes, it's a little bit old, and yes, it's loosely based on an old Mercedes, and, no, it's probably not the best value out there. But go out and drive a new 300, and that thing is one heck of a great vehicle for going long distances in supreme comfort without having to stop a lot, because it's just a really, really impressive vehicle. And it competed directly with the Taurus, but the Taurus was like a less comfortable, less attractive, kind of less exciting version of the 300 in my mind, and now it's dead.
Yeah, it's gone.
The Fusion's impressive, though. That thing is a
very
monster.
Impressive. It can't take a corner very well. Our friend Paul had it on Hot or Not, and he was displeased with its track performance. But in a straight line, it goes like stink, and it's a Ford Fusion. So, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you wouldn't really know that it had 325 horsepower under the hood. But, Tommy, it's time to move east and north and more Swedish, because number 7 on the Sweden is east is that way and north is that way.
Where are you watching it from, Michael? What if you're watching it from Germany?
Okay, well, to us right here. Anyways, number 7 is the Volvo S90 T8. It starts at $63,900, so it's a little expensive, but under the hood is a very fancy hybridized engine. It's turbocharged, it's supercharged, it's 2 liters, and there's a big old electric motor helping it out, and it makes 400 horsepower out of a Volvo sedan. I don't know if it gets more sleeper than a 400 horsepower Volvo sedan.
I honestly don't know what else they could throw at that engine, like a windmill and a turbine and
hamster to provide extra.
So you've got
turbocharging,
supercharging,
yes,
electric motor.
It needs a nuclear reactor.
Yeah,
right.
Our producer Zach says it needs a nuclear reactor.
A jet turbine out of the back.
Yeah, that is a classic case where I think they went into a meeting and everyone raised their hand and they said, "Yes, we're just gonna do all of them."
We're gonna do all of it. Yep.
But it actually works because the thing is an absolute rocket.
It's fast, dude. It's really fast.
Yeah, to 60 at least. I mean, it's a really cool vehicle. Now this if you're really into Volvos, you may remember, which you are. Yeah. You may remember Volvo actually has a long history of making super sleepers.
They do.
So they've done like the 850 Turbo and then the S60R.
Yep.
And now this is kind of the
next iteration of that.
Plus, there's also, you just drove the Polestar.
There's the S60 T8 Polestar edition, but they only made 20 of those for the U.S. 20, and that's it. So we decided not to include that one because you can't really actually buy one. But that is also very, very fast. That makes a little over 400 horsepower as well. Same power plant, but a smaller vehicle, lighter vehicle. I drove that. It's really fast.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really good.
Michael, it's time to talk about our bell.
Oh, yeah. So, guys, of course, we do offer some ways for you to support us other than just your viewership, which we always appreciate. And you can do that through YouTube's Super Chat function. So if you send us a donation, we have various levels of stuff we'd like to kick back to you guys. So for $5, we'll write your name on the hood in Sharpie. Welcome to the hood is what we like to call it. For $10, we have bumper stickers, TFL truck or TFL car. For $10, we have patches. Again, 25. What is 10 bucks? No, 10 bucks is the bumper stickers. 25 bucks is the patches. We have them on all our jackets, except for you. You have your fancy AVA jacket. And for 50 bucks, we of course have our TFL trucker hats. We have it in black and red and black and white. We can sign these too if you guys want. So send us a donation. We really appreciate all your support and all your help.
Yeah, for sure.
Should we keep going?
Yeah, so our next car on our Super Sleepers list is probably the pinnacle of what you guys consider Super Sleepers within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is the Chevrolet SS.
Yeah, the Chevy SS. You could buy one new as late as 2 years ago. Is that when they stopped going on sale? For about $46,000. $46,625 is the base price. It came with a 6.2-liter naturally aspirated V8 that made 415 horsepower. And very importantly, our producer Zach has noted it was available with a 6-speed manual transmission. I'd like to point out it was also available with magnetic dampers, which is a really cool piece of technology. But it also looks essentially like just a regular old Chevy Impala sedan, basically.
Yeah.
And this was a really cool option. It was basically a Holden Commodore, right?
Right.
Brought over from Australia, rebadged with some Chevy badges, and sold here in the United States. They didn't sell a whole lot of them, and they're no longer on sale anymore, but you can still find them pretty recently new.
And before that, actually, they brought the Holden over in a different form, which was the Pontiac, right? So they had
Right,
the Pontiac,
they did.
the G8, which was kind of a similar deal. It just, a little bit older. But the I think the big issue with the SS was it was just a little bit too sleeper.
Maybe, yeah. It didn't quite, like, if you didn't know, I sometimes miss them. I'll see one, and I'll think, ooh, is that an SS? And I'll think, I don't know. And then it drives by, and you see the little badge, and you're like, oh, it was, look at that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a really, really fast, cool, under the radar car.
Yeah.
Probably one of the fastest on our list. But the next vehicle you can buy as a super sleeper that's brand new
Yes.
is the Genesis G80.
Yeah, so I lobbied for this car to be on the list because under the hood of that Genesis G80, you have not one, but two actually really impressive performance engines. One is a 3.3-liter twin-turbo V6 that makes 365 horsepower.
It's like the same engine in the Stinger.
Same engine in the Stinger. Not bad, but there's another engine that's even bigger. It's a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 that makes 420 horsepower. Under the hood of that thing, it does 0 to 60 in just under 5 seconds. Normally, you'd probably see that and think, oh, it's just some big, stately, luxurious sedan. But in fact, you can get one with a giant V8 under the hood. They cost about $57,000 brand new with the V8 engine.
Now, Michael, everyone's wondering where the Stinger is on our list.
I don't think the Stinger classifies as a sleeper
Okay, why not?
because I think it looks way too aggressive. So this is something we were talking about today when we were making this list, is what makes a sleeper. And when you have a car, like Zach really wanted to put the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio on the list.
Okay.
But that has giant 4-leaf clover badges on it,
And it broke down on the way to the list.
quad tip exhausts. It might have broken down. It has, carbon ceramic brakes, yellow brake calipers. I think a car, for it to be a sleeper, you have to look extra hard at it to actually be able to tell it's anything special.
Yeah, I agree. And the next car on our list certainly epitomizes that. So this is the Audi S6. The S6 has always been, one of the main competitors to the M5, but in my mind, it's always been, like a super, super subtle M5.
Very,
you
very subtle.
really have to look at the fast Audis to realize that there's something special, unless you get an R8.
Right. The R8 is the one exception. But this S6, there's not a brand new one out. This is the previous generation, but they are going to bring a new one very soon, we assume. This one started for about $71,600 when it was new. And under the hood is a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 that makes 450 horsepower. So despite the fact that it looks fairly unassuming, it's rather fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really unusual car. You never see them. You really got to look out for them if you want to spot one. And for a while there, the S6 series of vehicles were even using the VAG V10, right?
Yeah.
Which
is
was
really
just
cool.
Berserk. Yeah. So it's had a few different engines throughout its lifetime, but they've all been pretty impressive. Going all the way back to the genesis of the fast Audis.
They have indeed. But number 3 on our list is maybe even more impressive just because it's actually that much quicker, despite not being that much more powerful. Number 3 is the BMW M550i X-Drive. It starts at $74,450. Under the hood is a 4.4-liter twin turbocharged V8 engine that makes 456 horsepower, but this does 0 to 60 in about 3.8 seconds, which is absolutely rapid. And to you guys wondering why we didn't talk about the new M5, well, someone just mentioned, Bonychuk mentioned wasn't the cutoff $65,000. It's actually $75,000, but the new M5 is $100,000, and it's an M vehicle. We wanted to exclude most vehicles that were like explicit performance brands like AMG M or the Audi RS line, because they're not sleepers, they're badged to heck. But this is
Well, they're also hugely expensive.
they're super expensive too. This one is it's just within our budget, and it's not plastered with giant M badges to tell you that it's an M car.
Yeah, the M550. It was kind of funny for a while there when they came out with the new generation of 5 Series. They also came out with the M550, and for a while there, it was actually faster than the previous generation M5.
It was, yeah.
Which was hilarious because there was a short period of time where you could walk into a dealer and get the previous generation M5 and have your doors blown away by this all-wheel drive super sleeper. So, there's very few cars out there that have this kind of the same acceleration I felt that like a Tesla has, but an M550 is just
it's one of those
mind-blowingly quick because
it's
it's
so
just
fast.
like a wave of torque, and it's got all-wheel drive, so it
hooks up and goes.
destroys you. Okay, so the next vehicle on our list is the Cadillac ATS-V, the 2018. So that would be the sedan. We're talking about sedans here.
Right.
3.6 liter twin turbo V6, 464 horsepower. This one I think is a little bit of a stretch because I think it looks pretty quick.
Yeah, this one, it's got the things, the splitter, the hood scoop, the classic V Sport black mesh grille, big wheels, but it's a Cadillac, and I think people don't associate the brand of Cadillac necessarily with something that has 464 horsepower.
Yeah, the real sleeper in my mind would be like a first generation CTS-V, because they were just kind of trying to figure out what things were supposed to look like back then. So they just like took a CTS and then maybe made some of the grill silver and called it a day. But nowadays, the new Cadillac, V models are super high performance, real M3 or AMG fighters.
Yeah.
I think actually the interesting one that we didn't put on our list because it's a kind of an outlier and it's going to be really small in quantity and it's still not quite out yet, but like the CT6 with, what's the engine called?
The Blackwing V8.
So do you want to?
The Blackwing V8.
Yeah, it's like the Black Pearl. You know how Johnny Depp is talking about the Black Pearl. It's like the Blackwing V8. that's what you gotta say. That's
a brand. Matthew
McConaughey.
McConaughey needs to switch brands just to
talk about the Blackwing V8.
The Blackwing V8.
I was
So
driving
while we're on the
Blackwing
subject-
V8s before I was getting paid to drive Blackwing V8s. Something like that.
Yes, there you go.
Gotcha.
While we're on the subject of Lincoln, many people are commenting the Lincoln MKZ,
Oh, that's a good one,
which
actually.
has the 400 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. That's a good choice.
That's a really good choice, actually. That's
A couple people are also mentioning the Subaru STI again. I mean, even more than Cadillac, it's a little over the top.
the
how it looks. It's
Subaru
obvious.
WRX STI has a wing that's larger than a Boeing 737 and like lime green brake calipers. I'm gonna instantly and a huge hood scoop. That is an instant disqualification.
Ready?
Ready? Hey, Trucker Dan, $5. Hey, Tommy and Mike, how's the Tesla repair coming along? I know, off topic. Sorry, it's actually not that off topic because we have something coming up on our list. But the Tesla's sitting right there and it's still not repaired.
So I should clarify. In our last video, I said that Tesla reached out and was going to get us our parts earlier.
Yeah.
That was not us trying to get parts faster. We had no control over that.
Oh,
I literally
no.
picked
Yeah.
up the phone to call the shop to get an update, and they said that Tesla had gone to them directly to expedite the repair. So we had absolutely no say on when the parts were to show up.
Yeah.
They're supposed to arrive sometime this week. Whether or not that will actually happen, is we have yet to be seen. But hopefully we'll be able to get it fixed up pretty soon and back on the road, so you don't have to look at the crunched rear end in all the videos.
Hopefully soon.
Yep. Okay.
Hopefully soon.
So let's read some comments here. 2015 Chrysler 200 all-wheel drive is a sleeper. I'm not 100% sure about that.
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with that one. Pentastar Nate.
Yep. Camry TRD.
I did actually make a case for the Camry V6.
The
Because it
TRD
has
is
over
kind of
300 horsepower.
but the TRD is kind of a reverse sleeper in that
It's
it
also
looks really fast and
it's not. Yeah, it's also front wheel drive. I kind of wanted to keep this like it should be rear wheel drive or all wheel drive, for the most part.
Gotcha.
Because I felt like front wheel drive is.
Yeah, people are also mentioning the Honda Accord, which it's quick.
Yeah, it's quick.
It's reasonably quick. It's just not fast. I wouldn't really consider it a sleeper.
The Accord. Yeah, I mean like the
If you
Accord.
tune it up, it could be.
The Accord Camry, they're pretty quick, but they're not, I don't think they're necessarily sleeper levels yet.
Yeah.
Okay, next car on our list is probably the least sleeper of all the cars on our list, but that's the Charger Hellcat or Charger Scat Pack. So for a while there, Dodge was advertising this as the fastest sedan you could buy.
Yeah, over 200 miles an hour.
And I think actually now the Alpina.
Yeah, the B7 Alpina.
Yeah, BMW's taking that.
Speaking of,
by the way, speaking of sleepers, the Alpina line is all.
Yeah, but that's how much does that thing cost?
Yeah, I know those
like
are
a
like
$250,000. It's not that much.
$250,000.
It's a lot.
It's like something like around $100,000. But
it's over $100,000.
The Charger Hellcat, of course, is 707. The Scat Pack, which is the one I would get all day long, is 485 horsepower. And the reason that we put these on the list is because they're tremendous value.
Yeah.
You can still kind of get them looking a little bit understated, and they are really quick.
Compared to the Challenger Hellcat, the Charger Hellcat is a much more understated view. Like, picking out a Challenger Hellcat is much easier to me than picking out a Charger Hellcat from a group of cars.
Yeah, I agree.
And for that reason, it made the list.
It's a darn shame, though. The car I really wish they would bring back was in the previous generation Charger. You could get the 5.7 Hemi with the all-wheel drive system.
Yeah.
And actually, I see a lot of them around, especially here in Colorado, because a lot of people went into the dealer, I think, wanting an SRT or one of the fast ones. But of course, you had a thin strip of rubber around these huge wheels, and it wouldn't work in the snow. And they would go out there and say, here we go. Here's our all-wheel drive V8 powered muscle car, and it was great. It was super subtle. It was a really great design, and then they killed it in the new one.
Yeah. And we do have a bonus, Tommy. Actually,
we do. And actually, I'm going to disagree a little bit with the bonus on one aspect. So our bonus is the car right behind us. So it's the Tesla Model 3. We have performance listed here,
yes.
And the performance will do 0 to 60 and hang on, let me check. Let me make sure. 3.2
seconds.
Yeah, with 162 mile an hour top speed.
Uh-huh.
But the sleeper one, in my opinion, is the long range all-wheel drive. So that would be 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds with the tiny 18-inch wheels. So you can get like the base model looking wheels and these.
So you make it look as sleeper as possible.
Yeah, like these plastic hubcaps.
Okay, we said the dual. Oh, he
well,
did
it
say
doesn't
the
have. Well, the long range also doesn't have painted brake calipers.
Right. So
That's
you
true,
can tell the
that's true.
performance because it's got a little bit of a bigger wheel. It's got red painted brake calipers. It's supposed to have a lower suspension. It's supposed to ship with a spoiler, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But any Model 3, even like the base Model 3, the one you can get for
really quick 0 to 60.
40 is like 5.3 to 60, but it was like 5.3 over and over and over. I mean, it's just
all day
super
long,
consistent
until you run out of battery.
Yeah, so if you're in even a lot of these cars, like a Taurus show, and you line up even against like a base Model 3, that'll give you a pretty good.
You're still gonna get a good run for your money. The model we were thinking about a Tesla, right? But I think the Model S is too expensive, and the Model X is definitely too expensive. In the Model 3, you still get a lot of the performance. I mean, the performance model has 450 horsepower, which is as much as the S6, more than basically everything on the list before it. I mean, if we were going by power, that would put it at number 5 on the list in terms of power. So they don't look particularly fast, but they do go particularly fast.
People are arguing that because it's electric, everybody knows a Tesla is fast, and therefore it's not a sleeper.
Yeah, that was the counter argument, but
well, it's kind of why we have it as a bonus, because I think you could really argue this one either way.
The Leaf isn't fast, and that's an electric car.
Yeah.
Nor is, the Bolt is quick, but it's not that fast. After like 60, it really falls off a cliff.
The Bolt?
The Bolt.
Oh, are we talking
the little baby hatchback?
So let's go to the comments here. Old Neon SRT4 was fast as hell, but it had more scoops than an ice cream parlor, so that's not really a sleeper.
It had more scoops than an ice cream parlor.
Let's see, what else are you guys saying? What
about the Magnum SRT8? It's not a sedan.
It's a wagon.
But those are cool.
Those are really cool.
Yeah, I did want to talk about actually. So this list was sleeper sedans, right?
Yeah.
But there's plenty of other sleeper cars that aren't sedans that are really cool. And a couple of my favorites. One is the V70R, the Volvo V70R. Both of our dads had one at some point in our life. We're not related. My dad had one, and his dad had one. And the other one that's like impossible to skip these days, it feels like, is the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. But it's $100,000.
That's all good, but you know what the real sleeper is? And this is like I'm gonna put on my serious face for a second here because I'm being dead serious when I say this. The previous generation, or 2 generations old now, RAV4 V6 was an absolute
Yeah, you've talked about
monster.
this before.
I know I've talked about this
Yeah.
before in between us, but
Yeah.
like I cannot get over how fast that freaking car was to 60.
Yeah.
Like we had one, I think twice, and the darn thing would blow its doors off. Anything. Like we went to this local oval track, and they had this day where you could bring your cars on.
Yeah.
And a dude in a RAV4 V6 beat an Audi S4, a V6 Mustang, a Sandrail, and a new Raptor at the time, which was a 6.2 V8. Like the thing is just a monster.
That qualifies as a sleeper. A RAV4 is definitely a
V6.
fast RAV4, which is a shame because the new RAV4 does not have any
oomph.
aspirations of going fast. Our friend Trucker Dan sent us another $2. Thank you, Trucker Dan. Well, we should race the Tesla around the IMI track. Haven't we done that? Didn't we take someone's Tesla?
I think
Model 3?
twice. I think we've done a couple of them.
So go take a look on our YouTube channels and find those videos. Thomas Paul, 549 Canadian. How much can the Model 3 tow?
I don't think Tesla recommends you tow anything.
I
with
don't
it.
think so. How much can the Model X tow?
5,000.
5,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at 5,000.
So, do they make it? They must make like a tow harness though
For the-
Model 3. You think?
Maybe aftermarket, but I don't think Tesla's.
Nothing you can bump like screw onto the
I
to the
don't.
frame in the
Not
back.
not that I know of.
To
I
hold,
think I've seen
for
like.
bike racks.
I'm sure you could get like an aftermarket bike rack one, but I don't think I would tow with a Model 3.
I wouldn't tow anything more than 1,000 pounds.
Having said that, in like the UK, they'll tow like 24,000 pounds with a, I guess, like a Hyundai i30. I mean, yeah, it's just these really
These little
tiny,
camper trailers. That are
little,
just,
yeah,
like,
these little
loaded-
caravans they
loaded to
have.
crap. Okay, well I think should we? Well, we spent a lot of time on that list.
Okay, Pentastar Nate says my 2015 Chrysler 200 V6 is 5 seconds. Why is that not a sleeper? It's just not 300 horsepower, which was kind of the threshold of our list.
Yeah, 300 horsepower is the threshold.
Well, we already had 2 FCA cars on.
Also
so we had
that.
300 in the Charger.
I'm sorry, Pentastar Nate, but that one didn't quite make the cut for
Yes,
us.
it didn't quite.
Okay, I
do it
think
for us.
let's answer one question so we actually stick to the topic of our show.
Yeah, the first
Uh,
one's interesting.
The first one's really interesting. So today we got an email from this guy named Brad, and Brad is asking for the best bang for the buck on a used SUV. So he's a realtor in Vancouver, Canada, and he needs to purchase a vehicle for work and family, looking to get the best bang for my buck in terms of purchase price, maintenance, and fuel costs. And I want you to keep those 3 things in mind because the vehicles he was thinking about include a 3, 4, or 5-year-old Porsche Cayenne, Mercedes GLE 350 diesel,
Blue Tech.
a Land Rover, or a Lexus SUV. Although I find Lexus a little boring to drive and targeted for an older consumer. So yes, the Lexus is not as exciting as those other 3, but it's the only one that I think actually gives you bang for your buck in terms of maintenance and fuel costs.
Yeah.
Maybe the Blue Tech would be relatively
Okay,
efficient.
let me look at the for work and family. I'm looking at getting best in terms of price, maintenance, fuel costs. You know, another one you may want to consider. The one I would get over a GLE and the Cayenne at least is the last generation Touareg.
Yeah, ooh, that's a good choice.
Was
actually,
really good actually.
not the TDI
Why not the TDI?
or the hybrid because the TDI required it was a V10, which was crazy.
No, not that generation. Like the one that they just
Oh,
killed.
the one they just killed.
Yeah. So it's like 3 or 4 years old. I'm talking about like I think it was a V6 TDI.
Yeah, that sounds more right.
It was the one that was wrapped up in the scandal. But that was actually an incredible SUV that no one bought because it had a Volkswagen name and it was expensive.
Too expensive for what people thought a Volkswagen should cost here in the U.S., but it was really good.
Yeah, so I would look at that. In terms of, honestly, for best bang for your buck, I would probably get the Lexus GX if you can find one.
Yeah.
They hold their value really well. But, you know, they're super good off-road. They're reasonably fun to drive. It's going to be darn reliable.
Yep.
So the GX would be the one to go for.
I would not buy a used Porsche Cayenne. I would not buy a used Land Rover.
Well, the Porsche Cayenne is somewhat related to the Touareg, but like the Touareg is a little bit more understated.
Yeah. The reason I said don't buy the hybrid Touareg is because I went to my Volkswagen dealership a couple weeks ago to get like an oil change or something, and I saw a Touareg hybrid on a lift, and they were performing some like routine maintenance item, but to do that they had to lift the whole body off of the drivetrain just to get to like this one whatever part it was. Like I asked the service dealer, I forget what the part was, which makes the story a lot less interesting, but the dealer's like, oh yeah, he's just in for this, and it was some simple part that wasn't a big deal, and you have to take the whole body off to get to the part.
Okay, so we have some interesting comments flowing in. Let's see, Penastar Nate. Look, I'm sorry, buddy. The Chrysler 200 is just it's just not that impressive of a performer. I mean, we've had a few of them, and it was kind of interesting, but it just didn't do it for us.
Well, while we're on the subject, take any of these cars and tune them and put aftermarket exhaust and
if they get better,
intakes,
it's a
and
sleeper.
they will get faster.
Yes,
but
the Chrysler 200.
Okay.
From the factory.
Let's see what else do we have going on here.
Oh, Thomas Paul,
We actually-
$6.99 Canadian. Everyone's donating in Canadian today.
Yeah, we got a lot of Canadian viewers.
You have not raced the Model 3 with the release of track mode. Oh, bet it breaks a record on the track.
Yeah.
I bet it doesn't break a record on the track. That thing is so heavy, and it doesn't really have that crazy track.
If I'm being honest, actually, Paul's a race car driver, and he's driven, hundreds of vehicles on the track, and
Yeah.
he was not that happy with the Model 3 on the track.
No.
He said it was kind of a dynamic disaster.
It's incredible in a straight line because it just has so much power and it puts it down so quickly. But when you were driving, you did a drag race, and you almost sent it into a dirt ditch just trying to stop yourself.
Well, that was just me being stupid,
Well,
I think.
yeah,
but
but
I mean, more around like a corner. It's just really heavy, and it's
so heavy.
dynamically. He said it struggled. We also had another one actually from IMNNO. Can't wait for the new Mini Cooper GP 300 horsepower plus.
Ooh,
Yeah, actually,
that'll be cool.
that'll be really cool. So the GP is the super fast version of the JCW Mini.
Yep.
And they've had two
John
generations.
Cooper Works, for those who don't know what JCW is.
Yeah, they've had two generations of JCW. So there was an R53, which was the first generation with a supercharger, and then there was an R56, and they were like super stripped down, no backseat. So I think that the new one should be pretty cool as well. And should we go on to the next questions? I think we can knock them out.
Yeah, let's do a couple more questions. So James, who's a Patreon supporter, thank you very much, James, for your support on Patreon. He asked, will I regret buying a Ram 1500? He's in the market to replace his current truck, a 16 Sierra Denali, which was a boring truck, okay. Considering the new Ram Laramie this time around, think I will regret it. Your thoughts and comments are appreciated.
No, I don't think you'll regret it. So
I don't think so,
if you
yeah.
think the 16 Denali was boring, you're not going to find the 1500 boring, especially if you're
God, no.
going like from a Denali to like a Limited, if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
Because that big screen is really interesting. The interior is incredible.
It's insane.
It's a really fundamentally it's an interesting truck. I think it's probably the most interesting truck if that's what you're going
in terms
after.
of styling, in terms of the powertrain, in terms of the interior, the tech, yeah, it's by far. I think it's by far the most interesting 1500 series truck you can buy right now.
Yeah, it is. It's a really really interesting truck. So I don't think you'll regret that at all. The e-torque, I probably would forego the e-torque if you have the choice.
I'd skip the e-torque.
We haven't really seen much of a benefit, in our opinion, with the e-torque in terms of
Yeah,
mileage, and
no.
it's somewhat more complex than a standard Hemi. But I think you'll be really happy going from a 16 Sierra to the new Ram 1500. Well, we have to hold on to ours long term to see how the reliability will be.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think you're good to go on that one.
So far, we're about 6 months into our Ram purchase, and it hasn't been unreliable.
No,
It's been fine.
we had an issue with the front sway bar, which was making a clunk, and then the hookup for the trailer, like the 7-pin hookup.
Yeah,
has
that
been
was a little
loose.
finicky.
But other than that, it's been pretty solid. So I think I would go for the 1500. Okay, Ram 1500 2500. This is a question from Ron. Within the next year, I hope to replace my 05 Silverado SS. Ooh, cool truck with a Ram. Several times a year, I haul my 6,000-pound RV and 1,000-pound Harley in the bed. That's quite a bit for my old Chevy, but she's a trooper with 160K. Should I look at a 2500 stick with a 1500? 1500 specs are the same as my SS for payload, but it hauls a lot more. If it was me, I would go for the 1500.
Yep.
Just based on that hauling your RV 6,000 pounds. The 5.7 in the new Ram is not going to have an issue with 6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
That we've experienced, and it just seems like the 2500 is a little overkill for your needs. But if you really want it, that new HD truck, I'd go for it.
My comments on that comes down to payload, because he says he was going to haul
You might be
a
pushing it
1,000
on
pound
payload.
Harley in
Yeah.
the bed, and if you're putting the Harley in the bed and you have passengers and you have cargo in the cab,
You'll be close to your
you're
payload
going to be close
capacity.
to maxing out the payload in the 1500,
'Cause
whereas
if
the 2500 would do it fine.
If the trailer's 6,000 pounds, the tongue weight's going to be 600 pounds, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Plus
it's
1,000
nice.
pounds in the bike, plus people, and you're at like 2,000 pounds, which
Well,
you might be over.
Yeah.
And we always recommend not going over your payload maximums.
So let's address some of the stuff in the comments because it's kind of interesting.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on here. Trenton says, Mike is very biased toward FCA, yet owns a VW less reliable than FCA. So here's the deal, okay? I think neither of us are biased toward FCA. We're biased toward interesting, fun and exciting vehicles, right?
Good cars, yeah.
Yeah,
good
and
cars and trucks.
And I'm kind of getting tired over everyone on the internet just crapping on FCA for quality.
Yeah.
Because I understand that maybe some of you guys have heard horror stories about FCA, but to think that every single one of their products is crap is just false. And I'll talk a little bit about our experience. Like, we had a 15 Rubicon that we drove to all 50 states. We put like 50,000 miles on in a year, which granted isn't 150, but it's still a considerable amount.
Good amount in the time frame that we did it in.
11 months, and we beat the ever living crud out of that Wrangler.
Yeah.
I mean, Nathan was driving, so that should say something.
Yes.
But just like
Nathan can break a car by just looking at it.
It was always off road. It was always towing. We just absolutely thrashed on it, and it just kept coming back for more. We did have a check engine light when we tow, full throttle uphill for 5-10 minutes. That was an issue, but that always went away. And then we blew out a shock. But other than that, the thing has been awesome. So,
and since then, you've had another Jeep Wrangler. You have your JK,
right? Which has been
we
fine.
have the Ram. We've had plenty of FCA products that we've actually owned here at the office, and they've all treated us actually very well.
Yeah. So, and we've had other products.
Too.
We've had GM products and Ford products.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, nowadays, modern car manufacturing has gotten so good.
They're all very reliable.
That for a certain I don't want to say they're all very reliable, because I don't think that's entirely true.
They're all more reliable than they used
than they
to
were
they are
even 10
way
years
more
ago.
reliable than they were, way back in the day. Because I mean, if you look at reliability of cars in the 50s, 60s, and 70s,
Oh God.
we talk about 50,000 miles the car would be done.
Yeah.
Like that was like the lifespan. Maybe 100K if you really pushed it on certain brands.
And to Trenton's point, actually, my Volkswagen has not been the most reliable thing on the planet either. I've had it in for a leaky cam ladder seal. I've had it in for a wiring harness issue with one of my license plate lights. I had a problem with the thing that makes the fake engine noise. Like, it hasn't been a very reliable. It hasn't broken down. Hasn't left me stranded, but it's also broken a lot. The build quality wasn't great. I'll admit
Kari
that.
says, I own an FCA from Jeep. FCA is junk. The long-term ownership, you guys aren't daily driving it. That's not true. I actually daily drive a Wrangler every day.
Yeah,
I think we just need to clarify that you can't say that all of FCA is crap, because I heard it online, and man, everything they make is just terrible.
Just because Scotty Kilmer told you it sucks doesn't mean it necessarily sucks.
Can I jump in there too? So we get a lot of emails on reliability, right? And my answer to that is almost universally, it usually comes down to individual cars. Some have problems,
Absolutely.
some don't. I daily drive a Mazda. On the whole, Mazda's fairly reliable, but there are cars that do have issues. There are examples of my car that have issues.
Right.
But, it just usually comes down to particular cars.
It also comes down to how well you take care of your car. I mean, if you're going to just beat it into the ground and not perform routine maintenance, your car is going to deteriorate a lot faster than if you keep up with your oil changes and change your tires and change all your wear items. Like, taking good care of your car can turn something unreliable into something that'll last you for a long time if you do it right.
Right. So in the comments below, let us know your experiences. Everyone has different experiences with all sorts of different manufacturers. That's why we do long-term testers.
Yeah.
I also want to clarify, we are not paid by anyone, so none of the manufacturers have any skin in the game with us.
No.
So for those of you right now thinking, oh man, FCA, how much are they paying you? Nothing.
They pay us nothing.
They pay us the same amount that they pay you to write those comments. So it's certainly we've had certain vehicles that have been less reliable than other vehicles, but it's unfair to say that one brand is just crap. Forget about them.
Yeah, no, and actually, FCA makes some of the. I'm perfectly fine going on record saying that FCA makes some of the most interesting cars you can buy today. I mean, they offer a 707 horsepower supercharged Grand Cherokee, and that same engine goes in a bunch of other vehicles. The Wrangler comes from FCA. The Jeep Gladiator now is probably one of the more interesting mid-sized trucks. I mean, they have a knack for making cars that are really characterful, and they have interesting features, and that's just good on FCA for that. Plenty of other manufacturers do the same thing. I actually like Kia quite a bit right now, and Hyundai. They do a lot of really cool stuff. The Stinger, the G70 is really interesting, but I'm going to stop rambling, and I think that's good for today's show.
Yeah, as always, I'm Tommy, and with me is Mike.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and drop some comments down below, and come back for another episode of What Car or Truck Should I Buy whenever we do the next episode, sometime later this week. We'll see you guys next time. Back to our 70s music, Tommy.